Welcome back to the foundational episodes of Not a Straight Line with Peter Daly-Dickson. We might wander through our entrepreneurial life solo. We might be very individual and alone as we complete these things, but there's nothing more important than community and nurturing connections with other people. And that's something Peter is brilliant at. He is great at creating supportive, nurturing networks to make things happen. Enjoy this episode, Nurturing Connections and Building Supportive Networks.
This is how we met. I met you in that world. And to my eyes, you are like the hub of the wheel that at like the center of the network that kind of knew everyone. It's like if you need to know someone, go to Pete. But you probably couldn't see that.
I'm really quite moved to hear that.
Yeah.
Towards the end of 2019, I took a business trip to Phoenix, Arizona, and I found myself in a Lyft car. It's LYFT. It's a competitor to Uber. It's only in America, I think. And at the time, I was going through a phase of recording conversations. So I got into Renee's car, started talking, and he mentioned something about his family, about his wife and kids, and just something in me just went click. I want to record this conversation. So I hit the record button, and Rob and Matt, you've both heard it, and so I said, okay, hey Renee, you were telling me about your wife and family, and we talked for a couple of minutes about that, and then there was a pause. He just said how I asked him how old he was. I think he said he was 37, and I've been around the block long enough and know enough about conversations and what have you, that I just left it. I just left an open space. I'm comfortable with open spaces. So he said that he was 37, and there was a pause. And then he said, I can't remember his exact words, but basically he shared that he had just recently come out of prison. I'm thinking, okay, well, this is going to be an interesting conversation. I didn't predict that when I hit record. And he's 37 years old. He'd served 16 years in prison. So he'd 31 years old. He'd served 16 years in prison. So he'd been sent down when he was 15 years old for second-degree murder. So he didn't commit the crime, but he was involved. I think he said shared that he was the driver of the car and didn't rat on anyone. And said not a day more, not a day less. I got every single day that they handed down to me. And then that opened up the whole conversation around second chances. And so then the acting was in the back of my mind, but this whole idea about second chances as well. And that kind of just really resonating with me. And then coming to 2021, I shared that something happened. And what happened is that the result of what happened is I walked away from the software company that I had started. Yeah, so my mental health was I just was not in a good place, and I walked away. And my wife, fully supportive, she could see that I was becoming I don't want to sound too dramatic about it, but a shadow of my former self, I guess. I think Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "Health is the first wealth." She was concerned for my health, but the reality is that bills still have to be paid. The mortgage still has to be paid. So she found me the job that I'm currently doing, which is moving luxury vehicles and other vehicles around the UK from customers to dealers, from dealers to customers, from one depot to another depot, whatever. If a vehicle needs to be moved, they give it to people like me to move them around. And interestingly, in the driving job, there are so many elements of it which are still true to who I am. I talk to anybody. I am 100% my father's son. I just remember we used to go to church as a family, and we'd all be sitting in the car in the car park waiting to go home. And where's Dad? And you could be sure enough he'd be talking to to somebody who was new to church. And I've always I learned that by example, by osmosis, and I've always had an ability just to start conversations. I remember went on holiday a few years ago with Andrea and Isaac, our youngest son, and we walk along. Andrea and I just walked along the promenade just to have some time together. And she needed to go to the loo, so she went off to the nearby toilets. By the time she was gone for what, 2 minutes? By the time she came back,
you're like holding court.
Well, not quite, but no. Not only was I in conversation with two ladies that were sitting in deck chairs, but I also found out that that they came from a place really close to where we live here in Coventry, and so we just stayed talking for a little bit. And as we walked away, Andrea said, "How do you do that?" It's crazy, but
some people give off a certain vibration that like allows those conversations to happen.
I tend to have conversations with Uber drivers, and I used to say to them, used to joke, and it's great when you have a joke. It's not really a joke, but when you have something which elicits a reaction, which you can just keep using over and over again because the audience is different every time. So, and there's a lesson in life possibly there is when you find something that works, just keep doing it. Maybe, I don't know. So I would say, I always say about this job, if you don't like driving, if you don't like exploring the country, going to new places, and you don't like meeting people, this is a really shit job. And of those three things, well, what do you suppose is the thing that I enjoy most in those three things that I mentioned?
The people.
It's the people, meeting people. I remember last year, or maybe even the year before last, again, time blindness is one of the types of jobs that we do is called pay on inspection job, sell us your car job. So someone's gone to Motorway or CarWow, and in other countries, I'm sure there are other services available. They've sold their car online, a dealer's bought it, and I'm there basically on behalf of the dealer to inspect the car, make sure that what I'm picking up matches what the dealer's bought, what they think they bought, and then arrange for the customer to be paid by the dealer and then take the car away. So there's usually a bit of time, half an hour, 45 minutes or so, while the dealer's sorting out the payment to have a conversation. And the question that I found when I was on these jobs that elicited good conversation was, are you sorry to see it go? And it's like, I'm going around taking my photos of the car and, just in conversation, you sorry to see it go. And that just used to get, oh yeah, can't wait to get rid of this heap of trash, or the opposite. And this guy, Neil, his name was, said, under the circumstances, yes, my wife died 6 weeks ago, so they didn't need the two cars. And it's like, well, where do you go with that? Well, where you go is you stop doing your inspection of the car and you connect and you relate to this human who has shared some of his life, and I feel myself getting emotional here because that ultimately, I think, is what the non-straight line journey is about. It's like seeing something and moving towards it because it's the right thing to do, irrespective of what's happened before. And yes, I've got time deadlines and whatever, and the car's got to be done. I've got to follow the process. But it was it might have been for other drivers. Other drivers perhaps wouldn't even have asked the question which elicited the response. It was impossible for me, being me, to have had that response from Neil and not to just connect and be with him at a fundamentally human level.
Thanks for listening to this foundational episode of the introductory series to Not a Straight Line. If this series interests you, share it with a friend. Make sure you subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And join us next time for another episode of Peter Daly-Dickson and his Not a Straight Line journey.
Hi, Pete here again. Just a quick question before you go. Have you ever dreamed of having your own podcast but held back? Too busy, unsure where to start, worried it's too complicated or expensive? Well, this Black Friday, I've made it easier and cheaper than ever to finally start. Just visit activateyourpodcast.com Friday, and you can grab the exclusive offer before it's gone. This is your moment. Don't miss it.